Hi everyone, this is the second module of our TDP and we have Call Evaluation Framework as our topic of the second week. The objectives of this module is first to enable you all identify the importance of a call evaluation and to be able to recognize the qualities of call evaluation framework, to relate the questions in each quality of the framework, and the last one is to identify the judgment degree for each quality of the framework. So not before, but when we use a call material, we need to evaluate its usefulness, whether it is appropriate or not. And in evaluating it, there are three levels. The first level is we evaluate the material itself. And this level of evaluation is very subjective, so we have judgmental evaluation. And after we have the call material, it sometimes has the task or the activity, or the teacher creates their own activity. And this is the second level, and this is also subjective, and the second level is also judgmental. And the third level, this is the highest level of the call evaluation, is after we use the evaluation, it's the call material itself. So we evaluate how useful the call material by evaluating or by looking at the learner's performance during the activities involving the call material itself. And this level is empirical. And in our TDP, we are focusing on the first level only. So we are evaluating a piece of call product or a web-based call material, which is very judgmental. And the next question is, why do we need to evaluate it? Brian Tomlinson, 2003, in his book, he mentioned that teachers need to evaluate the material in order to optimize students' learning process, in order to develop teachers' teaching skills, and teachers can understand their own teaching style and teaching proficiency so they can develop their own professional skills. And when we evaluate the core materials, as previously mentioned, most of the time we use our instinct. It's very subjective, right? So that's why we need to have a guidance, a guideline to evaluate it. That's why we need a framework. So as Tomlinson again mentioned, that the framework reduces subjectivity, and the framework makes an evaluation more principled, systematic, and reliable. Okay, and in this TDP, we use a call material framework, or it's called a call material appropriateness framework, created by Dr. Chappell in 2001. And this framework has got 6 qualities. Okay, so these qualities are very important to make sure that the call material is appropriate to use. And these qualities are those that we as teachers look for in a call material. All right, so the first quality is language learning potential. The second one is meaning focus. The third one is learner fit. The fourth one is authenticity. Then fifth one is positive impact. And the last one, the sixth one, is practicality. We're going to talk about these qualities one by one in this module. So before we talk about the qualities itself, let's refer to our sample, our core material sample, which was retrieved from 5minuteenglish.com. And remember that this material has got a text about traveling, and on the top or before the text there is the list of the list of vocabulary, and under the text there is an activity like true false activity that the students need to click on true or false based on the sentence mentioned in each number. And here, under the questions, there's the answer key. While the students can access the answer key whenever they want. Okay, we're going to use this sample, the call material sample, as I demonstrate how we evaluate call materials using the call material evaluation framework that we are talking about in this module. So remember, we need to know the target users. So in this case, we are going to use the call material for our English 1 class, which is, we know that the level is a beginner, and they are in our language laboratory. They are from architectural engineering department, and the lesson aim is to develop students' vocabulary knowledge in the context of traveling. And website, this is the target, and this is the description. As I previously mentioned that there's a text in the website, right? And the vocabulary list and the activity. So basically the description here is the description of the activity on the website. Okay, so because I don't create the activity, but I describe what's provided there and what we can do with that. And let's go back to the framework. Yeah, we're going to talk about the quality one by one. This is the first quality, language learning potential. So language learning potential is the degree of opportunity provided for focus on language learning and language acquisition. As we know that in language acquisition process, there are two approaches: cognitive approach, which means the input, the exposure of the language, and the process, the opportunity to focus and learn the language, and the output actually. And in the socio-cultural perspective or approach, we believe that the students are learning language through interaction. It's either human interaction or human-computer interaction. Okay, these ideas, the language learning potential idea is aligned with the purpose of call integration, that call integration should not be used without purpose. And of course, the purpose is for learning the language, right? And language learning potential is used to enhance students' learning. As I previously mentioned, that's the main purpose of language learning. Okay, and technology is only the tool, so we can't forget the main purpose of using the call material. And this quality is really focused on the main purpose of using call. Okay, the next quality, still the first quality. To evaluate this quality, we need to ask questions to ourselves. Okay, the first question is, does it provide enough exposure to the language? Okay, for example, if we're talking about present simple, then we need to have a lot of examples of present simple. Does it have a lot of examples of present simple, for example? Okay, and the second question is, does the activity provide focus on the language? So when the focus is present simple, we want to say, the text or the call material, we wanted to talk more about routine, for example, right? So yeah, focus on the language, not focus on the just English, for example, or only one example. Number 3, does it provide an opportunity for interaction? Human interaction or human-computer interaction? As I previously mentioned, we want it to be interactive, right? We don't want it to be, just a text present simple, a lot of present simple, that's all, and the students will learn. We can't guarantee that. We need an interaction. It's either, the students click on something, it's human-computer interaction, or they talk to other students or to the teachers, which is human interaction. Okay, and the fourth one is, how likely are my students to learn new language or language skills from the material? Okay, so as we know that learning language is not only learning grammar or vocabulary, but we also learn how to use it with language skills like reading or speaking or anything else. And looking at the materials, we need to evaluate. As teachers, we need to use our instinct and see whether our students will learn something new, whether it's a again grammar focus like grammar or vocabulary or pronunciation, or language skills like reading, listening, speaking, something like that. And if the answer is yes, then it's good. So we don't only answer to number 4 question, but we have to answer to the fourth questions, to the 4 questions. Okay, not the fourth. I mean, sorry, the 4 questions. And after we answer them, we as teachers need to judge the skill, whether it's weak, good, or excellent. So there are 3 points here, 3 degrees. The first, 1, 2, 3, okay? And we want, of course, the highest degree, which is excellent. Now, let's look at the examples here, yeah? Go back to the sample. As you can see that the main focus is, what was the main focus again? The reading about traveling, right? So as you look at the list here, the list of the vocabulary, and also the text, which is about, yes, about traveling. So answering the question, does it provide enough exposure to the language? And so I can say that this piece of material, it does give enough exposure to the language. Okay, so we don't want to be a lot, but enough. Okay, it means yes, it has something to expose to the students. The next question is, does the activity provide focus on the language? Now let's look at the first 2 questions. The first question is, to be bitten by the travel bug means you like to stay home. So the first question is a good question because it's really focused on the language about traveling, right? Bitten by the travel bug. The second question, people bitten by the travel bug like to visit new places. This second question also focuses on the target language, which means, the topic about traveling. But when you look at the third question, the great outback is in Europe. And then number 4, Antarctica is in Africa. Number 5, Asia is vast. 6, traveling opens your mind. And everything here, these are, yes, they are in the text, but these questions are not really focusing on the, the language about traveling. It's focusing, it's just English, it's about opinion. So the third to the 8th questions, they don't really focus on the language, in my opinion. If you think different, then that's okay. But in my opinion, I can answer them without reading the text. So I don't think it really focuses on the language. So my answer to the second question is not really. And then the next question is, does it provide an opportunity for interaction? Look at the questions that students need to click on the answer. So yes, there is an interaction between human and computer by clicking on the answer. And the fourth question is, how likely are my students to learn new language or language skills from the material? My answer is possible, but why I said possible? Because there is the answer key there, where the students can access that whenever they want, and this answer key will not give an information gap. So the students they can just answer that without reading it by looking at the answer key. But if some students, maybe they do really do that, so they will learn. Okay, so that's why I said it's possible. Maybe some students are just too lazy, which is impossible to learn new materials, for example. So the answer for the first question is possible. Okay, and this is the sample of the rubric that I have created. So on the left side here, there's the quality, the questions to ask, and then your judgment, the judgment that we just talked about, and then you decide how much, like what's the score, 1, 2, 3. Then because the answers is quite okay, then I give 2. Okay, so this is a sample of the first quality. Now let's go to the second quality. The second quality is meaning focus. The meaning focus is to extend which learner's attention is directed to the meaning of the language, not merely the form. Okay, so it's not about changing form, like if you're talking about present simple, then it's not only changing verb 1 into verb 2, for example. And then the question to us is, does it direct learner's attention primarily toward the meaning of the language? Again, the scale will be weak, good, or excellent. Go back to the sample. The question is, does it direct learners' attention primarily toward the meaning of the language? Look at the definition here and the text. Okay, so it's not only giving like a vocabulary list and then description, but it's also a text. It has a text, which gives like the context, right? The context gives meaning to the language, to the vocabulary here, to the list of the traveling vocabulary. That's why my answer is yes, and because the answer is yes, so my judgment is quite high. Okay, and I give the 3 score for meaning focus. And again, you can defend. You can defend if you don't agree. The third quality is learner fit. Learner fit is the amount of opportunity for engagement with language considering the characteristics of targeted learners or of students. Okay, the characteristics is the characteristics include the linguistic ability level or the proficiency, and also the non-linguistic characteristics. Okay, so there's linguistic characteristic and non-linguistic characteristics. The non-linguistic characteristics cover age, cultural background, learner styles, and computer literacy. So if the students do not know how to use internet, for example, so this material is not possible as an example. But we are going to look at the sample later. So questions to ask. The first one is the difficulty level of the targeted linguistics forms appropriate for my students? Okay, the first question is asking about the linguistic characteristic. Is it appropriate or not to our students? And number 2, are other aspects of the materials besides the target language forms appropriate for my students? Okay, the second question is asking about the non-linguistic characteristics. Okay, and the judgment, again, weak, good, or excellent. Go back to the sample. Number 1 is the difficulty level of the targeted linguistics forms appropriate for my students. Well, to me, this is quite easy, not really difficult, but also there is something new. So, the students can learn something from here, but it's not, it's not really too easy. That's why to me it's appropriate, yes, the linguistic wise. And number 2, are other aspects of the materials besides the target language forms appropriate for my students? This is quite simple. I'm sure that our students can do that, just clicking, reading, like scrolling. And then there are no taboo words which are still appropriate. And this is the general topic, so I think it is quite appropriate. Not quite, but it is appropriate. So my judgment for the 2 questions are yes. And of course, the score is high, 3. And the next quality is authenticity. Authenticity is the degree of correspondence between the call, content, and activities and the learner's target language use domain. Okay, the TLU domain is the context where students will use the language. In this case, we are talking about their professional life and the classroom activity, right? So the question to ask is the first one: will my students use this sort of language in their academic or professional lives? Number 2, will students see the connection between the materials and their academic or professional lives? So in here we try to look at in both sides. It's about the first one is our perspective, and number 2 is we are predict our students' perspective point of view. Okay, and again the scales will be from not authentic, which is weak, somewhat authentic, which is good, or authentic, which is excellent, that we expect. Go back to the sample. Number one, will my students use this sort of language in their academic or professional lives? I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem that they're going to talk about uh, travel bug or it's exotic, for example. I don't think they are going to use it. So number one, I don't know. Number two, will students see the connection between the materials and their academic or professional lives? This is, yes, they're learning English, but I don't see a connection to their academic and professional lives. So the answer to both questions are no, which gives very low score in this quality. And the next quality is positive impact. Positive impact is the positive effects of the core material activity on the students besides learning the language. So uh, we want the core material gives new informative knowledge, gives students a new learning strategy, and gives students intercultural knowledge, or not. So it's either one. Okay, so but at least it gives um, additional impact, not only learning the language. And the question to us is, will these materials have positive impact beyond the language learning? For example, providing new content knowledge, new intercultural knowledge, or new learning strategies. Okay, and as usual, it has three scales: 1, 2, 3, weak, good, and excellent. Go back to the sample. Asking the questions: will the materials have positive impact beyond the language learning? Okay, my answer is most likely yes. Let's go back to this. This is because we talk about traveling and there's some new information there. So I think they will know something new about intercultural perspective and also about different opinions. For example, here, why do people want to? It gives them a better perspective. Blah blah. Blah. It opens mind. Blah blah. Blah, save money. Sorry. It opens. It gives them. Okay, and there's something new, like seeing things in maybe different perspectives. Okay, so or maybe it gives them new content knowledge, talking about traveling itself. So my answer is most likely yes. This way because I still predict, but I am pretty sure that there will get something new, uh, some information besides the learning the language itself. That's why the judgment score is 3. Okay, the last one is practicality. This is something that we have been talking about. Practicality is the adequacy of technical resources to support the use of the call activity. For example, software, hardware, internet connection, and etc. But supporting technical support, of course. So the questions to ask are: first, is the hardware available? 2, is the necessary software available? 3, is an internet connection available when it's needed? And 4, am I familiar enough with how the material works? Remember, even though it's very sophisticated and you want to use it, but it's not going to be useful if you are not familiar with that. So basically, we are talking about how feasible it is to use this particular core material. And again, when we answer these questions, we will get the scale, weak, good, or excellent. Go back to the sample material here. For the first answer, is the hardware available? Yes, we do. We do have, we do have the core materials. Oh, no, sorry, the hardware, a computer, even though this is a bit critical, but we still have them. And the second one is the necessary software available. We need to use the sample material. We need the browser, right? Internet browser, and the answer is of course yes. Number 3, is an internet connection available? My answer is yes, because we can provide it. And number 4, am I familiar enough with how the material works? To me, because I know how it works, then the answer is yes. And because everything seems to be yes as an answer, so we get 3 for the score, right? Okay, these are the references, and yeah, I hope it's useful. Thank you.